There you go.
I'd say we're live. And we're recording. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all having a fabulous Monday morning here. We're happy to be back. Aren't we happy to be back?
Yeah, we are happy to be back. It's been, gosh, several weeks, maybe 3 weeks since we've been on. So good morning, everyone. Glad to see you guys joining us again. We've had a very busy couple of Mondays.
We have, and one of them wasn't our fault.
Right.
That was, well, you know, I guess Mark Zuckerberg didn't pay his bills, or I heard a rumor that actually like the staff couldn't get in the building when the system went, when everything was crashing at Facebook and Instagram, that their cards wouldn't open the door.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't hear anything about it.
Little rumors out there, the rumor mill going. But we tried, guys. I mean, I was just like, something's wrong. I can't get on. And then later we found out nobody could get on. So I don't feel quite so bad.
Yeah.
But last week, what were we doing last week that we couldn't join this wonderful group of people?
Well, last week or 2 Mondays ago?
Was it 2 Mondays ago? I'm God. Where were we? What were we doing?
Well, I guess we tried to get on the Monday that we were going to CAR.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking those were 2 different Mondays, but I guess those were the same one because I didn't go to Sierra until Tuesday. But this last Monday, this last Monday we were participating in the production of a diversity, equity, and inclusion event that was broadcast across the country to 19 local associations. And so we were speakers. Lisa was a speaker, I was a moderator, and it was a really great event. We'll be able to post the link for the replay if we haven't done so already. But that was awesome.
Yeah, I'm putting it in the chat now. I think that'll get people there. Or just go to, let's see, RE events. There we go. Oh, no, it worked. It's just a little delay. We've got the link there. So you guys can hop on and see what we did last week. We've been busy. We've been traveling. We've been staying in hotels, which is really weird. But I'm getting used to it again. I'm definitely getting used to it again. And our first round of hotel rooms, well, I don't know, maybe we should let's start with, we'll work into this week besides the RE events. We had a very busy week last week and a very busy week the week before. We were at CAR in Anaheim. They were doing hybrid meetings, which really, it was interesting. What was your opinion of the hybrid meetings?
Well, the meetings I was able to attend online, those were great. And the meetings that I was able to attend in person, those were great. And so I don't have the ability to be doing both at the same time. So I'm assuming it all went well.
Well, I did get to do both at the same time. When I tried to get into the legislation meeting and they didn't have enough chairs for the guests because they practiced social distancing. Yeah. And they also had mask police. They were very, very conscientious of trying to keep us safe in the hotel conference area. And they had all of the tables that normally they would have, maybe 6 to 9 people all seated at these tables. Now we're maybe 4 to 6. So they lost a lot of seating spacing, for the COVID protocol. So they didn't have very many guest seats. So I was a little disappointed because I love to go to the legislation meeting, is what happens for the state stuff. And I got there and I'm like, I am wearing heels, which right there in itself is really a big switch. And I'm like, I'm wearing heels and I'd have to stand for an hour and a half. I'm not going to sit on the ground because I may not be able to get back up, but I am certainly not going to stand that long. So I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to my hotel room and I'm going to watch it on Zoom. And that's what I did. So I was doing a hybrid of the hybrid kind of, I guess. So
Yeah. It's a very popular meeting, so I think they just underestimated. They needed one more room, open up the next room over, but I don't think they were able to. So yeah, it's one of the most popular ones.
Yeah, and it was good because I still had the ability to be in the meeting. I'm not a member of the committee, so it didn't, I didn't have to be there, but I just wanted to know, and I was able to hear everything that was going on thanks to Zoom.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a member of that committee, so I was there, and yeah, it was done pretty well in that, if you chose not to come to the meetings, then you could still participate in nearly everything. I mean, they have a few meetings that were closed, and those meetings are generally closed anyway. So just maybe 2 or 3 different things that you might have been able to pop in if you're not a part of, were not open. But I don't know if that was logistics or how that choice was made. But for the most part, you could attend virtually, while at the same time the expo was going on. So all of the sessions that were being offered, I mean, three days worth of sessions. I think I was able to pop on 1 or 2, but then the rest is available on replay. So even if you didn't register for the expo, you can still register now and have access to the replay through the end of December. There was a ton of great content, so I'm looking forward to carving out some time to browse through the schedule and see what I missed.
Yeah, I was only able to get onto a couple as well, but it was really good. And there are a lot of sessions there that I want to see, because they cover just about everything. You've got like your super nerdy crap, like your, economic forecast. They had a couple of panels on that. And they also have a lot of social media panels. They had a few DEI centric panels, lots of good stuff. So, definitely take a moment if you can, go check what the website has on it and see if there's anything, worth taking a look at. I definitely want to go back. The one I didn't see was the 2022 economic forecast, I believe, with Jordan Levine.
Mhm.
And he's the new head economist, and I really want to see what he's up to.
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm gonna
good.
do a little
Well, do you want to
technical work on my, oh, go ahead.
You want me to just kind of dig into some of my notes to cover?
Why don't you
some of
do
the
that?
highlights?
I'm
Okay.
a little frozen here on my Facebook feed. I want to be sure it's okay for everybody else. It looks like it is. So I'm going to do a little technical work, but why don't you tell them the highlights? And
right.
I'll listen while I play here.
Okay, so one of the committees that I'm on is a Defense Strategy Advisory Committee, and that one actually met on September 30th via Zoom. So well before the conference began, we had this meeting, and it's actually a really neat meeting. They have one of the attorneys from the CAR hotline will always present the hot topics, the things they're getting the most phone calls about. And then they'll have a couple of attorneys who work with brokerages, and they will report in on what issues they're seeing. And then there's also somebody from an E&O insurance company who'll jump on and let them know what they're seeing. So it's really cool to kind of get this broader picture of some of the issues that are happening. And so from the hotline report, they had been receiving lots and lots of calls regarding the eviction moratorium. And of course, that expired on September 30th. So it doesn't mean we're back to business as usual. So if you have any tenants who have not paid, there are still certain forms and certain timelines that have to be followed. You can't just kick them out. At the same time, the landlords are still able to recover some of that rent. So if you have a situation like that, CAR has a great Q&A that's been updated that walks you through the most recent protocols now that it is expired. That's not an area that I ever got too specific on because it was so complicated, and the general rule of thumb was advise your client to go talk to an attorney because it was so complicated. And also we didn't have any tenants in our property management portfolio who were delinquent on rent. And so we were grateful for that, but also I was thrilled. I didn't have to know these details very intimately because our tenants were able to pay, and they did. But that wasn't the case for everybody. So some of the other things that they were getting calls regularly on was the fire hardening disclosure form, what to do, how to fill out the form. So they're continuing to get calls on that. So they do have a good Q&A on that. But I think they recognize the form is really complicated, and it may get even more complicated as we go forward, because there are some additional layers of labeling the zones that were discussed recently on a meeting I was on Friday, and I was just completely lost. So stay tuned for that. I need to hear
I
it
don't like
again.
hearing that Lori is completely lost. Right there is that is a scary statement. Okay,
Well, okay, to be fair, sometimes I'm a little distracted. People are texting me and calling me, and I'm doing other things while I'm listening, and then I'm like, oh wait, there's no pause button, so I can't pause and rewind. But there's some new labeling requirements that are going to be coming out, and so there's confusion of, well, how do we know these other layers of zones? And is the form going to be changed? Are the NHD companies going to update? It's a lot, and I think it's so new that they didn't really have any clear direction either, so stay tuned. They also get a lot of fair housing calls. I thought this was really interesting, specifically landlord-tenant issues, and agents are worried about comments their clients are making and the impact of whether what is being said by their clients is a violation. So I thought that was pretty interesting that agents, number one, it's great. Agents are recognizing some of the comments that clients are saying are discriminatory or could be discriminatory, or maybe how they're handling selection of tenants and, by extension, buyers for sales as well. But that's a good sign that agents are recognizing there are some issues with what is happening. So that was good. And even better, they're calling in and asking for guidance. What do I do? And so they didn't really cover any specific examples, but I can kind of speculate. And the reality is you need to have a conversation with your client and let them know what they're saying or doing is violating fair housing laws. It's a violation of federal law. It's illegal, and we fix it. We don't do it. Or agent, you need to have that conversation and possibly walk away. So that was interesting. They're also still getting some calls on escalation clauses, basically ambiguous language, and then also seller leasebacks. If they're not using proper documentation, these leasebacks are getting messy. So, they kind of throw out there, these are the topics. They don't necessarily, we only have an hour and a half, so they don't necessarily give a full scenario and a full explanation of how to avoid it or how to resolve it. But it's good for us to know these are the topics that are problems. And then agency issues, mostly procuring cause disputes. Specifically, they mentioned taking over a listing when a listing expires or cancels. So what should you do? Their recommendation was call early. If you know that you're going to be getting a listing that is going to be expiring, or if there's going to be a cancellation, get ahead of it and call the hotline and say, I'm getting a listing that was previously listed, and ask them, the proper way to navigate through that. There is a great Q&A on that as well in the agency Q&A, but it can be tricky, especially if it's a cancellation, because it's very possible you will be accused of inducing that seller to cancel. So you want to make sure you have proper documentation that that's not what happened. This client reached out to you and you did the right thing and said, I cannot help you until, I cannot help you while you're listed with someone else, and end that conversation right there. So those were some of the main things that were beyond the obvious that we typically hear about. Those were pretty interesting. And then we heard from the E&O insurance representative, and reminding us that a lot of the E&O companies have pulled out of California. They don't want to insure us because there's too many lawsuits related to real estate in our state. So the choice of E&O insurance providers keeps getting slimmer and slimmer each year, and as a result, our costs keep going up each year. And so let's see, regarding any claims, a couple of things they mentioned. They haven't received, this particular provider, now it's not like a representative for the entire E&O industry, it's a particular provider, said that they personally hadn't received any COVID claims. So I made a note of that. And then 50% of the, let's see, hold on, let me rewrite my note. So companies don't want to write policies for dual agency. And there are some companies that do 50% of their business is dual agency. So, you know, it's pretty significant that an E&O insurance company will say, you know, we really don't like that practice. So that could actually hurt us in the long run, because dual agency is legal in California. It's not legal in all states. But if more and more insurance providers are going to say, we are not going to cover for that, that's potentially going to change how we operate in this state if we can't do dual agency. And remember, it's not just same agent doing both sides, it's same company doing both sides. So we have to
throw out a little notice for everybody that's an Orange County Realtor member. Is we're going to be doing a talk on dual agency and fiduciary duties. And, you know, because a lot of people don't realize when it's somebody else in their office, but not their actual office. Maybe they're in one location and there's another office, you know, in another city, and those two agents are doing a transaction together. As long as they're all under the same brokerage, that is dual agency. And it's not just all about you, but this could be, you know, significance. And, you know, for the people that are the conscientious professionals that care about such things, I think that, you know, the sad thing is it makes it kind of right for the people that aren't really very professional and really don't care about doing the right thing. They're just seeing the dollar signs. So let's hope that this is something that doesn't, you know, get ugly in that regard. But it would be nice if we could keep decent E&O coverage, you know, because, you know, as long as you're not making your business off of dual agency, and you're having good supervision, you know, it can be done where it's beneficial to all parties, but you have to be super, super careful. So on to the next thing.
Good. No, that was great input as well. That same E&O company reported that 70% of their issues are 70% of their issues reported are failure to disclose. So keep that in mind when when you're not sure, when a client's not sure, so they disclose something, just always disclose it. And then I thought this was a good reminder. If you're doing different services within your brokerage, make absolute sure your E&O coverage is covering you for each of those services. It's easy to say, I just do sales, and then suddenly you start doing property management. You need to make sure that your E&O coverage includes property management or whatever other service you're offering. I got stuck there. My brain got stuck. Let's see. And then they are seeing an increase in bodily injury and property damage during showings. So they didn't elaborate on that, including open houses. So just be sure that when you're holding an open house or you're prepping a property for showing, don't leave stuff in the middle of the floor. You know, kind of do now this safety check, walk around and look and see, are there any safety hazards that I need to be aware of? I mean, we can't prevent people from being clumsy. I'm certainly clumsy.
Yeah, me too.
But we can try to keep the path as clear as possible and make sure there's nothing hanging, and who knows what else.
Yeah, well, like I have a listing coming up that has a basement, but the stairs into the basement are not what you would call real safe. So basement's going to stay locked up and, you know, subject to inspection once you purchase a home, because there's no reason that I need people going back and forth into the basement and possibly falling and hurting themselves. And, you know, Lord knows I don't need to be going down there because that's an accident waiting to happen. And I just know better.
There could be spiders.
Yeah, well, they say they got all the spiders out, but I'm not going to check until I have to.
Okay.
And Pam puts in, you know, into the remarks, booties are dangerous. Yes, booties are dangerous. Yeah. And I really think that people really need to rethink the use of booties. You know, I mean, like when I'm showing homes and like it's a tile floor or it's a wood floor, why do I need booties? Really? You know, I'm going to kill myself probably. Or worse yet, it's like they have like skanky carpet. They're not telling you to wear booties. It's like, why is this to protect my shoes from the dirt? I don't quite understand that. So, we might want to rethink that. People think that they're really doing somebody a service. Maybe if you have all brand new carpet, I don't know. We really need to rethink booties because, yeah, I have came close to eating it a couple of times in a pair of booties. Oh, let's see. Susie says, I have a realtor friend in the middle of a $1.1 million lawsuit. Her 89-year-old buyer's mother fell and broke her hip.
Wow, from booties.
I believe so.
Assuming. Yikes.
Yeah, rethink your booties. Hashtag rethink booties.
Yeah. Keep us posted, Susie, on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, and then regarding disclosures and contracts, so they pointed out that the DRE is asking for the DocuSign confirmations. Okay, if you're being investigated by the DRE, they are now asking for the DocuSign confirmations showing the amount of time your client spent before signing the documents.
Oh.
Yes. And so this is something we've discussed before. You should always be sending a copy of the contracts to your clients ahead of time so they can review it, look at all the details of the contract, just the general terms. You can even just provide them a sample, let them know if they have any questions. And then when they get an actual contract or you've written a contract for them, we really should be sending these as PDFs. Hey, take a look at this and read it carefully. And then if you don't have any questions, I'm going to shoot it over to you via DocuSign. And same with the disclosures.
You can even be this crazy. You can go meet with your clients. If you don't want to meet with your clients, use Zoom and sit there and go over the documents that they're signing. What a novel concept. You really only need to do it kind of like once with the offers. Once you sit down with your buyer and you sit and go through, this is this and this is that and this clause is this and this will get you out of that and blah, blah, blah. You only really have to do that once. But, people look at our industry and say, where's the value? Why am I paying you this money? What is it that you're doing? And honestly, if you can't take the time to sit with your clients and go over what it is they're signing, then you probably really need to rethink things, because this is really interesting information. I was kind of waiting for this to come up because so many agents are just falling back on DocuSign. Oh, just fill this out. And with, I want to say Glide, oh, here, do your disclosures. That's major stuff. They're hiring us for a reason, not access to software to fill out a form. So you might want to think about that, invest a little time in your clients. They're gonna appreciate the hand-holding.
Yeah, absolutely. So, their recommendation, of course, is to have evidence that you've covered the content with your client, that you sent it, and that you reviewed it with them. So yes, not just that you sent it to them, but that in some way that you've reviewed that. So I thought that was really interesting that the DRE is actually requesting that proof.
I like it. I'm actually kind of excited about that.
Yeah, because remember, you may not necessarily have a lawsuit, but you could have a DRE claim filed against you where a consumer reaches out to the DRE and say, hey, I was, not, my business was not handled properly, and here's what the agent did. And so the DRE is weighing in on it as well. And so these best practices, that are always recommended, it's not just to stay out of court. It's not just to keep the DRE off your back. It's really both and more.
Yeah.
Other things.
Well, it's just good business practice, because it's like I mentioned, so many people are like, oh, I'll just send you the forms. And you're like, well, what forms? So when's this home buyer going to say, I didn't know what I signed. They didn't tell me what it was. And we all know, we're all hitting things all the time, doing everything that we probably shouldn't do when we see, terms of service and stuff. Like, who actually sits there and reads the 31 pages of the terms of service, when you're going on to some website or something like that? Yeah, but that's not selling your house or buying a house. Yeah, maybe you might get hacked or something, but it's, if you feel that you got coerced into something and somebody didn't explain to you what you were getting into with hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of, of your money, whether you're a buyer or a seller, bless them for looking into this, because I'm happy to hear it. I'm happy to hear it. Somebody's finally paying attention to the abuse of electronic signing.
And a statement was made, this is a quotable quote, "You cannot sacrifice service for efficiency." I thought that was really
And
good.
let's see, Nick has a comment and it says, I tend to send documents prior for clients to review, then send signature packet once they give me the okay or have had questions answered. How will this look when the DocuSign log says the client spent seconds on the document because they reviewed it prior to the signature packet going out?
Well, I think what you have to stand on is the fact that you emailed it over to them. So you have that time stamped of when you sent it. You're asking the question, if you have any questions, let me know. And then if you don't, then I'll send it out for signatures. So, put it in the context of you're waiting on them to fully review it and for them to let you know they have done so. And so, if they respond 2 minutes later, okay, done, and it's, a 40-page disclosure packet, that's not going to fly. If they wait a full day, now we don't assume necessarily they took 24 hours to read it because they had to do other things and sleep, but at least, that would be sufficient time. I don't know that there is a specific, this is the right amount of time, and this is too little and this is too long. But I think, we have to use common sense in that, if it's an hour later, maybe they honestly sat down and read the whole thing right then. If it's a couple hours later, possibly they read it, broke it up, did a couple other things, finally got back to you. So I think it's just the onus is on us to just show that we sent it. We gave them instruction to notify us when they fully read it and if they had any questions or not. And then we have that time stamped because then we'll get their email response back.
And also too, this is when you have your communication log, you have your, your daily planner showing that you had an appointment, to meet with these people. You have, text messages saying, hey, is it okay for me to, come over to talk about, your documents? Yeah, sure. Come over here at, 12 noon on Thursday. So as long as you can document that you are counseling your clients, probably it really doesn't matter what the DocuSign summary would say, as long as you have proof that you went over it with your clients. It's the people that just hit send, sign it, it's all good, with nothing to back up that they sent them an email beforehand with PDFs, that they met with their clients beforehand to counsel them, maybe a record on Zoom, showing that they had an electronic conference with them. There's all kinds of ways to protect yourself as long as you're doing what's right.
Yeah, and it's a good point. You need to demonstrate that you've done the work and you protected yourself. But I want to be clear, there's no expectation, there's no legal requirement that you go over it. It's part of our code of ethics that you should be going over all documentation with your clients. I don't think it specifically says that, but it's the right thing to do. And yet, what was said in the meeting was the DRE is looking at the timestamp because there's not sufficient time. They weren't looking for the evidence that you reviewed it. But I highly encourage you to review it with them.
As we always say, approach everything that like it's going to be a lawsuit. Document everything, even like your daily, like my little notebook says, this is where I'm going this day. This is where I'm going to be, blah, 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 blah. So if somebody says, well, you didn't go over there, say, well, I have my text messages that I can give you a copy of. I have my daily journal showing a copy. I've got, when I produce these forms, versus the date that I sent them to sign, so it's just one of those things. If you get in the habit of always documenting what you're doing with every client, then you don't really have to, worry so much as the person who is obviously being turned into the DRE for them to look at, that somebody somewhere said, I didn't have time to read this. They told me to sign whatever it was, that happened to get this onto the DRE's radar. But I know it was talked about quite a bit last year, that people were just signing and not reading, not being told what they were. So
yeah,
good conversation though. This is one of those things we need to think about.
Yeah, it was. I have a little bit more.
Go.
3 pages of notes. Okay, so some of the issues that the attorneys were seeing was that due to the seller's market and it starting to slow, the legal repercussions of that. There's lots of claims driven by the market, buyer cancellation claims, writing non-contingent offer claims, agents documenting via email that it's okay, you can cancel and get your money back. And then that's brought into the lawsuit when they're trying to claim they used a contingency, that maybe they didn't, they just, you know, I just want to back out. Files not reflecting doing of the counseling. So, you know, going over those documentations, that documentation, agents practicing law, specifically giving advice on what to do regarding the deposit. So be very careful on that. I mean, there's no guarantee, and you should not be advising your clients. I mean, I would personally say, hey, it's subject to loss. Make a decision if you want to cancel, make a decision, consult with your attorney.
Go into a little bit more detail. What do they mean when it's counseling on a deposit? You mean like saying, well, you're going to get your money back based on this contingency, even if that doesn't really apply, because we all know how people twist contingencies to make them work in their favor.
And also with the seller, you know, telling the seller, well, you know, if they back out, you get to keep their money. That would be, you know, you're practicing law there, because that may not be the case. And then they're starting to see issues post-close, buyers that paid too much and felt locked in, afraid that they would lose their deposit. Most of those issues are also coming out of non-contingent offers. So that this was a good tip. Initial next to the box for non-contingent offer. Have them initial next to the box. To the boxes where like no appraisal contingency, you know, whatever the case may be, because this sort of negates the claim that my agent never told me what that meant. So if they're physically initially next to that, that could be a benefit to you. And then, yeah, they kind of went back to that conversation about the emailing and using DocuSign. On another page I have, let me know any questions when you're ready. I'll send to you for signature. They did specify, try to do 24 hours if possible. It wasn't a requirement, but a suggestion. And then don't do everything just by technology. And then let's see.
That's a novel concept.
Yeah. Okay, and then here's a reminder. You can write a non-contingent offer and still do an inspection. Some people think that that means they don't get the opportunity to do inspections. Well, you still can. You just can't back out of a deal from what you find in the inspection if you release that contingency. And they mentioned, I don't remember if this is a separate topic or continuing on, but it's better to get into a deposit dispute than a disclosure lawsuit. But that's worth it. I thought that was good, but I don't remember what they were talking about. I mean, this is like rapid fire content, and I'm just like, whew. Let's see, other claims, other suits include claims against agents based on misrepresentation of activity, such as the number of offers. So I guess they were seeing, you know, listing agents say, hurry up, get your offer in, I have X number of offers. And then in reality, they did not. And let's see, they haven't seen any issues coming out of the love letters as of yet. And then, and any discrimination claims this particular law firm had been seeing were discrimination claims in the last 6 months were related to landlord-tenant issues. And then that was it for Defense Strategy Advisory Committee, 3 pages of notes.
Okay, we have a question from our friend Michael asking, non-contingent offer with no inspections. Why would someone not do an inspection?
Well, I mean, it's very possible there are some agents that say, well, it's, you know, you made it non-contingent, so you're giving up your right to inspection, which that's not the case.
Yeah, save your inspection money. You have to buy it anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would probably, my answer to that would be just the agents that are saying it don't understand it. They don't know, and they're misrepresenting that to their clients. They're misinforming them.
I mean, I don't think I would ever even allow a client unless they insisted, and I had it in writing that they insisted that they would remove all of their contingencies. You know, it's reckless. And, you know, I think the main takeaway on that is, you know, if somebody demands to do it, you want to be sure that you cover your, you know what, because if they come back and say, well, you know, they made me buy this house, and there's a lot of just crazy misconceptions out there that, you know, you have to remove all your contingencies to get a house and all of that. And it's reckless. To me, that's reckless. It's, you know, as a realtor, you know, we should not be allowing our clients to do that unless they demand it. And I had a client this past year, you know, go in and write things on offers that was against my advice. And I had it in writing. I don't agree with this. I don't agree with what you're doing. You're the one telling me to do it. Therefore, I will do it. And, you know, he got the property that he wanted, but it was like, you know, I'm not feeling good about this. If you feel good about this, you ain't coming back on me, then I'll do your wishes. But otherwise, you know, and you really got to be sure your clients understand what they're getting into when you start.
The same goes for the listing side. I mean, I've talked to brokers in the past where they, you know, they've called me and said, you know, so we're listing this property as is, and yet the buyer's agent still wants to do a home inspection and or submit a request for repairs. And remember, as is means without warranty. It doesn't mean you don't get to investigate. And so, you know,
Exactly.
if a listing agent is pushing on you, well, you don't have an inspection contingency because you're removing all contingencies. You don't get to inspect. I would push back. And in fact, you know, there are some brokerages across the state who on that Friday meeting I'm on, they've made it very clear that when they get an offer that is completely non-contingent, they counter it out and say you have 3 days to do inspections, because the listing side doesn't want to be responsible for you not doing any inspections. So I thought that was really smart that those listing brokerages, and, you know, I don't know who they were, and it doesn't matter, but the reality is that was a great risk management move, so that the listing side can say, hey, we gave you opportunity. If you still choose not to do it, that's on you. But we didn't want to walk into this with no, you know, not offering you that opportunity to do it.
Yeah, in fact, Pam has written in here, I write all inspections to be completed in 10 days, even if contingencies are removed, to focus on the inspection process.
Great.
Yeah,
And
I think that's going to, oh, go ahead.
There's a letter in the forms library, in the CAR forms library. You have to switch the library, so it defaults to the CAR library. But if you switch it to letters, there's a letter in there that says acting against the broker's advice. And so when you have a situation where you've counseled your client and they want to do something completely different, use that letter to document that, hey, they're acting in a way that is against the advice that you offered them. And that very well could save you down the road. Exactly. We've not ever had to use it, thank goodness, but you never know.
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, and this is a market that's been pretty much unlike any other, you know, so we're seeing people driven by peer pressure. Their friends or their family are telling them, you have to do this to, you know, get a house, you have to do this, you have to do that. And you're like, no, you don't. And they're like, but I have to, you know, I demand this because my mom told me I need to do it, you know, and believe me, we hear that a lot. I'm sure all of you out here hear that a lot, you know, and there's, you know, numerous memes out there about don't let your client bring dad to the inspection, you know, because everybody knows more about real estate than the real estate professionals. You know, it's also kind of probably how doctors feel about WebMD, you know, and it's just everybody knows everything. And sometimes you just kind of have to say, well, you know, I know they told you that you have to write that love letter with a picture of you and your fiance and your dog and how you're going to raise his family in the house and blah, 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 you know, and you're like, guess what? No. And that conversation gets tough, especially with a lot of, you know, first-time buyers. You know, they're hearing it from all sides. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. You go on the internet. This is what you need to do. And no, it's not what you need to do. Anyhow, moving on.
Well, what do you have?
What do
I've
I
been talking
have?
for 40 minutes.
Well, I know, because you got all the good stuff. Because this is Monday Morning Coffee and Compliance, and you're the compliance queen. But one of the meetings that I went to that I thought was really good, I didn't get to stay for the whole thing. And if Lori can follow up with anything that was really cool that I missed, or anybody in our chat can, my favorite is risk management. And this was done as a virtual meeting. And they had a gal from Fidelity National Title do a presentation on wire fraud and phishing. And just when you think that you really can't hear, like you've heard everything, And it's like, what else is there left to hear? This gal did a fantastic presentation on being sure that you're checking your emails, your incoming emails, that the phishing scams are out there. And they're still coming at you. In fact, I had a couple come into my mailbox over the weekend that look really, really, really like I should be clicking on here. And then I kind of check it out and I'm like, I'm not clicking on there. Check all of the emails, the actual addresses that are coming in. Like if you have Gmail, it'll show you, from and then to, and then it has like the little arrow next to the to. You click that and that's going to give you the detail. And that's where you check and see, where did this email come from? If it's from somebody that still check the email address. Make sure that they didn't put like a dot somewhere that it doesn't belong, or remove a dot that might be in there, or add a different character or something. And that's what they do. They go into people's email, they go in, and, these people have time. This is their job. Their job is to get into your email and go snoop and see what transactions you have going on, see who you're sending things to, getting your contact list and changing your name and sending it out under your name. And your friends are like, oh, this is something from Lisa. I'm going to open it up. And guess what? It ain't from me. And now I'm sitting here going through all your passwords and, various other things. So just know that, especially during the COVID shutdowns in our situation where we still have a lot of people working from home, this really is a huge, huge problem. And one thing that I thought was really amazing, because I can't believe that people fall for this, but they do, like all the time, is you'll get a message from somebody saying that they're your office manager, which why they say it's the office manager or the broker beats me. And they'll say, hey, I'm in a situation, I need you to go buy $1,500 worth of Visa gift cards and send them to me. Better yet, it'll be faster. Scratch off all the numbers on the back of the card and take pictures and send it to me. And people do this. People actually will go out and buy the gift cards and take pictures and send it back to whoever sent the message, which probably wasn't their boss in the first place. And guess what? You just been had. And a couple of our large brokerage friends said, yeah, this happens all the time, that our agents are getting these emails. And I found that just mind-boggling, that something that is so obvious, people are still falling for it.
Well, and that happened to me, as president of Orange County Realtors. I am on the website, and so are all the directors. And so one Friday night, I'm at home just finishing up dinner. My phone is blowing up, and I had 4 directors text me saying, hey, this isn't you, right? And so I had nobody outside of the board of directors reaching out to me. So I knew it was isolated. And I jumped on the website, and of course, all of our phone numbers are on there. They were getting this via text message because our phone numbers were on the website. So I, of course, reported it to the office, and it's Friday night. They're not at the office, but thankfully, they're responding to text message, and they put out an email to all the directors. This is not legit. And then subsequently, they removed all of our phone numbers from the website, because that's where they were getting the numbers from. I mean, I knew for sure it was isolated, because it wasn't people from my phone, contact list, just random people. It wasn't like random Facebook friends. It was other directors who were getting this. So they're going on websites. I mean, and that sucks, because on our real estate office websites, we have phone numbers on there, right? So that's why they're reaching out. I'm the office manager, and they're sending it out to agents in the office, because now they've got a makeshift roster right there.
And there's, things going on out there that I'm really not sure how these people get phone numbers and can impersonate people on your phone, so you think you're getting, messages from somebody or a call from somebody, and then it's coming in and it's like, well, this isn't who that is. So, these people are very sophisticated, and obviously they understand that little circle of trust. If we can go onto a website and find who the head person is, and then tell all of the subordinates to go help the head person while we take all the money or whatever, it's sad that this is going on, but obviously, they realize this is a way that we can make money, and it's a lot of money. These scammers, they're smart. They're smart, and they have a lot of time, and they evolve faster than we can, try to keep up with them. But, just tell your agents, if you have agents out there, tell your coworkers, really need to be cognizant of, really checking your email, wiring instructions. Still, all of that monkey business is still going on. And one thing I think that I heard that, we might want to check into too, is if you put on your signature line, like that red block about the, I will never be sending you wiring instructions, blah, 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 that supposedly that helps protect you, from a liability standpoint.
Yeah, that was brought up in one of the sessions, that, as a company, you have an obligation to inform your clients. So we use the wire fraud advisory. Granted, a lot of people use it late. That really needs to be something you do up front, not in the disclosure packet when the buyer's already wired their money. But yes, that was in, I don't remember if it was in risk management or the defense strategy advisory, but that is a way for you to demonstrate. Actually, it was risk management. It was that lady. It's a duty to warn. Add the disclosure on the email above the signature line, she said, because they don't read past your name. Especially if they already know you, they don't read past your name, but it's a duty to warn. And then, it won't protect all issues, but at least you've demonstrated you've attempted to warn your clients.
And Pam put a good remark in the comments saying, warn your clients about fraudulent mail or email after the close of escrow. And we all know that the minute that you put something pending, that you're going to get a million postcards from movers. The minute that you close, you're going to get a call from a security company. There's certain things that you just know are going to happen. And, Pam, I'd love it if you could elaborate on what it is that you're seeing, other than, the typical, because I think that they're probably, that's a really nice thing to be going after. Oh, we just know this person just, closed on their home, and how can we nail them? Probably after putting their guard down. So anyhow.
Did you have any more on the business email compromise? Because I have a few more notes on that.
Why don't you go ahead on that?
So these are a couple of things that I didn't know, never thought of. We always think when we're hacked, because that's a phrase we put it, we've been hacked. We instinctively change our passwords, but something that was really important was, she said, you need to go into your settings of your email account and look if there are any rules that have been set up that you didn't set up, like filtering, forwarding. Those are different rule sets. And so if you change your password, those rules are still there. It's just now they don't have access to your password, but they don't need it anymore because they've set up a rule to forward the email to them. And so they said, task yourself on a regular basis to check those rules, to check those email rules, to see that the settings are what you set up, not what maybe someone else who at some point got in changed them to. And then they had a term called stacked spoofing. So when someone has spoofed you, they've created that email address that looks like yours, and now they're communicating with the client. Now you've got threads that are multiple spoofed emails. And so you need to start new threads. If you continue on in these threads, the people are still getting the information. And so you need to be on the lookout for whether someone has inserted themselves in that or not. So those are really interesting things that I had not heard of in any other presentation. And I mean, I've gone to a million wire fraud presentations in the last, like, seems like a decade now, and there's still people who haven't got the memo.
Exactly.
That was it.
And let's see, Pam said, I just received a text from a client with a document he received offering to obtain a copy of the grant deed for a fee.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of that goes on. There's a lot of wacky stuff, Wow. Yeah. What else you got? Anything else?
From risk management.
Yeah, what were the things that they were seeing? That's my favorite part of, oh my gosh, I'm starting to freeze up a little bit here. My favorite part of risk management is when each region gets up and has to, you know, say what it is that they're seeing, because you can hear about some really crazy stuff going on that might not be affecting us now, but could very well be affecting us in the future.
Yeah, I always try to take notes on that, but it's always just so much and a lot of duplication. So there was a lot of fire insurance challenges. One area reported that their Mellorews are close to expiration, but they're being reinstated through 2085. And so check your title reports to see if there is an option for renewals on those Mellorews. Hopefully we don't have any of those in our area. And then one area reported lots of slip and falls at open houses, specifically while holding other brokers' homes open, which I am never a fan of, because if you're holding someone else's brokerage listing, you need to make sure you have an agency disclosure signed, because now you're representing the seller because you're talking about their home.
I think we need to do a whole Monday morning coffee and compliance on that kind of stuff. Because people don't think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could do a whole hour on stuff like that, but we definitely need to send that note over to risk management at Orange County Realtors for our session, holding other brokers' houses open. Let's see, a lot of issues with the waived contingencies, buyers claiming sellers withheld information, lots of vendor issues, so referrals by agents. Make sure you give 3 referrals. Apparently in a lot of places, they're seeing where an agent said, use my handyman, use my guy, and then there's a problem, and then the problem falls back on you because you made the recommendation. So as much as we like to have our specific vendors, we really need to think about that practice and be sure that we're providing options to our client and having them make the decision, so we're not held responsible for any issues.
And we remember that we're going to have a session on that too, because we said we were going to do that. Everybody was all excited. So that will be forthcoming. We've just been a little busy. Continue.
And then some areas reported local justice groups that are asking for additional rent controls. I know we had that happen in Santa Ana. So Santa Ana has some additional rent controls, I believe. Let's see, issues with the home hardening, not understanding how to fill out the form and what's required, and all sorts of stuff related to that. Let's see, that was it. I mean, most of the other stuff is stuff we've probably talked about here. I try to write down as much as I can, but a lot of it, I mean, it's rapid fire, and a lot of it is just the same stuff we've already been talking about. So I try to, then I switch to, okay, what's different? What are things I haven't really heard about? So that's that. That was the rest of risk management. But to hear those like 30, I think it's 31 regions report, it takes close to an hour for everyone to sort of give. And I don't think we had an hour. So I think they did it in like 40 minutes this time.
Yeah, they went pretty fast.
Yeah, because then we get the update from Gov Hutchinson. And I think that's when I had to jump onto another meeting.
Yeah,
let's see.
It was a busy day.
A couple other things from the DRE forum, that was on October 5th online. And so the governor did sign the bill where we will now be required to take implicit bias training as part of our renewals. So our renewals, obviously once every 4 years, 45 hours, it will now be 46 hours because we'll have 1 hour of implicit bias training. And then also new licensees as part of their pre-licensing education need to take a 2-hour implicit bias training. So that takes effect January 1st of 2023. So that gives a year of implementation time for schools to create the program and start offering it. So if you have a renewal in 2022, early in 2022, you're probably not going to get it. If you have a renewal late in 2022, you might get it, but it won't be required, but schools might begin offering it. And, even if you don't need it, I would recommend take it, because the more you're informed, the better. The more you know, the better, the better you can do. But it will be in effect January 1 of 2023. So we'll see that. And then it was interesting. The DRE reported that there were 25,000 new licensees in the last fiscal year. So we all know that during a time of recession or economic slowing, people get into the business. And so they reported 25,000 new licensees fiscal year that runs July to June. And then they are going to be putting together a group to rewrite the state exam. So they're looking for subject matter experts, and I am not volunteering for that. As amazing as it would be, I don't need to do that.
I am shocked. I am shocked.
No, because they put you in a room for 8 hours, they said, and I'm thinking I don't need to do that. But I like to look at things from the risk perspective and the client compliance perspective. I don't necessarily like to look at the definitions of things and the application when it comes to test questions. But if there are other nerds out there who are interested, let us know. We can let you know how to get in touch. But it's an exam validation study, and the state requires an occupational analysis every 5 to 7 years. So we're falling into that time frame. And their goal is to really make sure that the exam reflects the business. And so, we all know that when we take our classes and we take the exam, it's not really relevant. Well, within certain guidelines, hopefully they will be able to adjust some of that so it's, up to date. There are still questions on there about old-fashioned non-electronic methods of things that, now we have technology that does these for us, does things for us. So that'll be interesting. If anyone's that nerdy, more power to you. It's not me. And then of course,
it's nerdy if Lori says, I'm not doing this.
I know a couple people who might be interested though. So the top complaints still are in the property management realm related to trust funds and supervision. And that's all I took. Oh, and if you did not know, brokers, you can now apply for your license. So new licensees can now apply online. You can still mail in the application, but you can actually apply online now. I have a note into the DRE to find out, so how is this going to blend with those that have mailed it in and those that are applying online? Because there's got to be, an order to that. I'm sure there is. They actually launched that in September, and I didn't know. I discovered it on accident in October, the beginning of October, and they did a soft launch, a super quiet soft launch in September. So that's that from DRE.
Wow, that was a lot of really good information, and we are just 1 minute away from the 1 hour mark. So I think we did fantastic. I do want to say, and maybe you can explain this real quick, that Lori received, she was nominated and was approved to be on the directorship board for REBS. Can you tell everybody what REBS is?
Sure. REBS is Real Estate Business Services, and this is the for-profit arm of CAR, where they develop and partner with educational providers. So any classes that you take, most of the classes you take through CAR with a certification fall under their umbrella, as well as different partnerships. So Seller Shield and Glide and all the different member benefits, the different partners we have all fall under REBS. And so I was a director for 2020 and 2021. It's a 2-year appointment, and I was reappointed for another 2 years. And so it's pretty fascinating. I mean, it's not quite the Shark Tank, but in a way it is, because, you know, we're looking at the different educational offerings that are available out there, and how can we bring these in for our members? And there are things that are for free, and there are things that have a charge. And so they look at all of that. So it's pretty cool.
It's a pretty big honor to be selected too. So congratulations to
Well,
Lori.
Thank you.
And there was another little special treat too. And since I think Susie's still on here, and many of you belong to the Deliberately Fair Housing group, our kind of our sister group. You know, same bunch of folks over there that are here. But the Deliberately Fair Housing group received recognition from CAR, receiving a leadership award. And boy, did that surprise the daylights out of us, didn't it?
Absolutely did.
Yeah, so you know yep, right, Tom. Congratulations to DFH. You know, we're doing some good work over there, and you know we do have in the link the DEI event that was done by the Citrus Valley Association of Realtors and their production arm of RE events. So don't miss that. Just hit the link. You know, it's right at the beginning of the conversation. So you can see we had 3 different sessions. We had Brian Green from NAR talk with me and Susie Dunkel Soto on the first session. And second session, Lori moderated and had, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to try Kevin's name.
Loyacano.
Kevin from Long Island is what I call him, and Matt DeFanis and Janet Dorsey. Wonderful conversation there about the intersection of DEI and fair housing. And then our final session was serving, what was it? Serving
Advancing home ownership in the underserved communities.
That's what it was. And that was moderated by the wonderful Leon Townsend and had Shaniqua Badger and Luisa Chavez, but I think she had, did she get married or something?
Lisa Chavez Zepeda. Yeah. One is her maiden name, one is her married name, and she kind of goes by both. So
you know what? It's
Lisa.
a good thing to do. And so it's really a great thing to watch. You know, tell your friends, tell your office. You know, we had a few little production glitches in my session, but you know, you can still get the bulk of it out. And you know, the cool thing is we don't talk about really like the stuff that people are like, oh, I hear that all the time. We don't talk about that stuff. We talk about the stuff that people aren't talking about. And so, you know, we're just trying to get the word out. And, you know, if anybody out there needs, you know, more information on, you know, what we're doing or would like to hear from us, you know, come address your group or whatever, we'd be happy to talk to you about doing that. We had a little field trip last week and went to visit our friends at the Tulare County Association of Realtors. And what a wonderful, hospitable group of people they are. Oh my gosh, wonderful, wonderful people. And we had a talk there. What was it? Did it have a name? I don't even know if it really had a name, Lori.
It did, but I don't remember. It was because it was changed I think it was changed a couple of times, but it was essentially diversity and fair housing. So Lisa and I were the panelists, and Hector, we just met Hector, so I don't remember his last name. Sorry, Hector. He's a new friend of ours, and moderated by a good friend that Lisa and I have from CAR, Connie Couts. So
and we had a great conversation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really was nice because we kind of let the audience drive the direction of the conversation. You know, we had some points that we wanted to say, but we answered their questions because every area is different, and every area is going to have questions specific to them. And it was really quite interesting. This one went into a lot about the Hispanic community and a lot about veterans, because they have a military base close by, and they have a huge amount of veterans that live in that area. So, you know, it's not always, the talks are not always going to be the same by any means. We just need to be having the talks, because fair housing encompasses a lot of things, and diversity, equity, and inclusion encompasses many things. And so, you know what, the conversation's not always the same, and we just need to be, you know, aware of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we can be better.
That's right.
Well, on that note, do you have anything else to add, or shall we just close this show down for the day?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot today.
I think we did. So, you know, we do have notes on upcoming shows. That sounds so odd. I don't like to call this a show because it's a conversation. You know, I want to do more on you know, if I can find that gal and see if maybe we can get her to come talk about the phishing and wire fraud and spoofing and all of that, that would be fantastic. Really want to talk about that, you know, how you can get in trouble holding open somebody else's listing, and maybe get into the benefits and pitfalls of, you know, co-listing a listing instead of just referring. And, you know, you think you're doing the right thing and it couldn't possibly have anything bad come out of it. You never know. I think that would be really a good conversation to have. And then we need to have the handyman, movers, general contractors, referrals, that whole thing. So man, oh, and then Jeff Campbell wants to come talk. Should we let Jeff Campbell come talk?
Yeah, we could.
He wants to talk about growing your brokerage. And, you know, not like he doesn't know a thing or two about this, but, you know, it's Jeff Campbell. So
That's cool.
you know, we love you, Jeff.
We can certainly have Jeff on. He always brings something to the table.
He is a dear friend, and we would love to be able to have him come on. And Mike White says you are brave. And Mike White should know.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, we're little daredevils every now and then here in Zoom and Facebook land. So on that note, we'll go ahead and end this for the day. But thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate all of you taking the time out in your busy days. And if you guys have any ideas for topics for us to discuss, you know how to find us. You know, we're on Facebook. We're on, you know, just send me a DM through the nerdy group, and we'll be sure that we cover these topics, because we want to talk about what you guys want to hear, as well as what we can do to help educate. And, you know, we got the queen of compliance here. Oh, no, wait a second. Is she over there? Oh, she's somewhere. Never know where you're going to be on Facebook.
I'm here.
You're above me on Zoom, but you are there on Facebook.
Okay. It's really not relevant, but okay.
It really is not relevant to you, but it really matters to me right now. So everybody go out and have a great week and go out and sell a house. We'll see you soon.
Be safe. Thanks, everyone.